Hi, it's Chris Hamilton here from EnterMyInvoice.com and BookkeepingAutomation.com, and today I'm going to talk about the future of bookkeeping and accounting. So one thing that you may not realize is that in the next kind of 5 years, your whole world is about to change. There's so much going on in the bookkeeping and the accounting world, and with automation of a lot of stuff that happens in your world, it's literally going to be like night and day in the next 5 years. So just as the taxi industry never saw Uber coming down the pipeline, and just as Blockbuster didn't even see Netflix coming down the pipeline, the same thing's going to happen in your world. So right now, if you take a look at QuickBooks or Intuit, and their QuickBooks platform controls roughly 80% of the marketplace. And of that 80%, roughly 90% of it is QuickBooks Desktop. So basically, if you take a look, it's 72% of the market space in North America is on QuickBooks Desktop for anyone that has an accounting system. Now, here's where things are going to change is Intuit has now come out with QuickBooks Online. And they predict within 5 years that QuickBooks Online is going to be 50% of the market that they're going to be looking after. So literally, the growth here is going to be about 500%. So the desktop's going to shrink. QuickBooks Online is going to grow. Now, one thing about QuickBooks Online that you have to know is they've got this app store where a lot of people are building apps. We've built an app around both QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. But this app store, the apps are there to reduce the amount of hours, to expedite and automate the whole bookkeeping and also this accounting processes as well. And, your competitors and hopefully yourself, you're going to be more profitable and offer a better service for a lot less because you're going to be able to automate a lot of the tasks that are associated with QuickBooks. Now, here's a way that this works is obviously when you take something like EnterMyInvoice.com or BookkeepingAutomation.com and add them with QuickBooks Online, you reduce your time that you need upwards of 80 to 90% for the manual entry of the accounts payable process. So when you do something like that, before you may have a practice where you were doing, for one client 20 hours a month, you're charging $30 an hour, and basically you're making a revenue of $600. Now, what happens is when you start layering in the automation, you can reduce 75%, so you're down to 5 hours a month. Someone would be at $30 an hour, so it's basically $160. So, there's $450 of profit to play with. The fact is that even if you doubled or half the amount that you were doing before, so you were doing books for $600, now you're doing it for $300. Effectively, if you've automated a lot of this stuff, your new fee is instead of $30 an hour, it's $60 an hour. So not only is there an ability to reduce the amount of time that you have, but there's an ability to double, triple, quadruple even your fees for your clients as well. So, the number one objective I hear when I talk to people about apps is that adding apps adds costs. And I'm here to say, wake up. Seriously. That is probably one of the most ridiculous excuses I've heard, is that, it's adding costs to what I do. So think about it this way, is in the example I just gave, if you're not using the apps, you're doing it for 20 hours and $30 an hour, you're getting $600. You know what? Someone's going to come along and automate this and take your clients from you and give it half, do it for half the amount. They'll make more money per hour. And the fact is, they're going to be the ones that actually take these apps, layer them in, and automate it. So quit looking at it as a cost. Look at it as a profit center. And you have to actually think about it. You do your cost-benefit analysis. So yes, you have a point, but you know what? You have to weigh your options. You have to say, by adding this in at $20 here and $10 here and $10 here, if I add an extra $40, and what kind of efficiencies am I going to gain? And is it going to far outweigh it? So in order to survive, you're going to need to automate You're going to move to more of a consultative role as opposed to just a bookkeeping role and actually working with your clients. And last but not least, you need to put a huge emphasis on marketing. So what I'm going to talk about is not necessarily how to automate. I mean, you can look through the App Store and figure out how to automate. Moving more to a consultative role with your clients, you'll have to go work on that yourself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk more about kind of that sales and marketing side here. So I'm going to give you 3 secrets that you need to use to grow your practice before I get into some marketing tips here. The first one is set goals and write them down. Set goals for what you want to do, where you want to be, what you want to offer, and start marching towards them. Map those activities that you need to do to get to your goals. And last but not least, and this is one of the biggest ones that I see that people don't do, is that putting time aside every day for marketing, selling, and prospecting. And why I've got 4 gives you 64%, this is like the Pareto effect. So the Pareto effect is the 80-20 rule. 80% of your results come from 20% of your work. Well, if you Pareto effect the Pareto effect, then it says 64% of your results are derived from 4% of what you do. So it's nearly 2/3 of what you do is from 4% of your efforts when it comes from anything. So in the marketing, selling, and prospecting world, it's the exact same thing. So I'm going to get into some activities that you could do to get new clients. First of all, one thing you should do is, and I see this with a lot of people, is they'll take on anyone as a client. And I understand that when you're first starting out, but then where you want to go is you want to pick a niche eventually, get into a niche space and understand what it is. So for example, this comes from an older presentation I have, but in Canada here, the Canadian Revenue Agency is getting an additional money put into the budget to increase the amount of audits for tax avoidance and evasion. So there's a lot more CRA tax audits happening. The CRA also predicts that they're going to bring in way more revenue over the next 5 years just from adding these people. And then last but not least, penalties are up tenfold between 2012 and 2015. So what this says to me is that there's a huge emphasis on CRA audits. Now, if you look online at the Canadian Revenue Agency and try to see where they're getting audits or trying to see who looks after audits, there's not a lot in that space. So you can actually get online, write some stuff about that, put a blog up, and talk about it, and you'll get found. The other thing too is go where your clients are. Go to associations, publications, whatever it is. Go into that marketplace where you have your clients and get known. Do speeches, do articles if you can, hold webinars, whatever it is. So here's another one. Do you want to know how to double, 5x, 10x plus your practice? It's through referrals. Now, only 11% of people have a formalized referral process, yet it generates 65% of all sales that are out there. So these 2 stats come from the Word of Mouth Marketing Association. If you take these numbers and take a look at it, the 11% going after 65% are generating 15 times more sales opportunities for their company, which is 94% more sales opportunities if you compare it to the 89% going after 35% of sales opportunities out there. They also close at double the rate in about a quarter of the time. Now, when you put all these together, basically what happens is you get about a leverage of about 120 times. So once again, going back to my point here, do you want to double, 5x, 10x your practice? It's not inachievable if you start taking a look at leveraging referrals and building up your practice. Another way, figure out a way that you can use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very powerful platform for getting found and getting introduced to people. Another thing, I do these all the time religiously, webinars. It's a great way to bring people in. So think about what your clients could use, and you could do tax tips for people. Send this out. You can record these as well and send them out afterwards. You can put them up on YouTube and get found. It's crazy what you can do with webinars. The other thing too, think about an email marketing. If you have clients, your clients probably offer certain products and services, and why not create an email marketing list? Let your clients know, I'm creating an email marketing list. Do you have any clients or anyone that you know that might want to be on it? And what happens is you start sending out offers from your clients, and you're going to make your clients happy. They will stay with you, and continue to be clients of yours because you're actually trying to generate business for them. The other thing too, YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and Google owns it. It's right behind Google for this as being a search engine, and it's a huge opportunity. I have over 1,600 videos that I've created for my sales and marketing consultancy, and I get people contacting me on a regular basis just because of those videos. The other thing you can do, create a podcast and get a podcast out and get found as well. One last thing that I think people should look at is getting a website. So I know when I go do speeches for Intuit, roughly 20 to 30% of the people in the room have a website, which means that 70 to 80% do not have a website, so they do not get found. So you want to see the secret to maximizing your marketing efforts. This is really simple. So I've talked about a whole bunch of different ways that you could do stuff. So here's something that you could do that takes a little bit of time, but it multiplies your efforts. First of all, create a presentation. Add it to a site called slideshare.net. That's one way. Then you could use that presentation and do a webinar. What you do is you record the webinar. You upload that webinar to YouTube. You transcribe the webinar for a blog post, put it up on your website, and use the content or the transcription for a blog post. You put these up on your website, as I say. You rip the audio and you create a podcast. So take the audio from that and create a podcast around it. You could send this information to your LinkedIn connections or else to people that you may have if you created an email list. Then what you can do is you can put a post up on LinkedIn as well. And then last but not least is if you're doing multiple webinars, you can create ebooks, books, audiobooks, and courses wrapped around this stuff that you can give out to clients. This is all ways that I use just a kind of a single piece of content to create multiple ways to use it and generate traffic and opportunities coming in the door.